Dr. Delgado, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
All righty. That was easy.
Yeah.
We got you in.
Yeah. Like I say, most of the time, remember that if I tell you yes to something, I block my schedule.
Well, I
So,
appreciate that.
yeah. So that way I won't have any issues because otherwise somebody will take it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I cannot afford to leave anything open.
Me and Ken were having some issues the last couple weeks. I think I got it resolved this time, but the chat feature, I'm gonna test it out here right now. See if you can see it. Hey
What
guys,
am I
appreciate
supposed
you
to do?
appreciate you
Okay.
joining early. Dr. Olson, Kay, Ron. Stay tuned. We'll be starting here in about 5 minutes. And if one of you guys can chime in, I last week we were having an issue with the chat. I went ahead and sent a message, see if you guys can see that and or respond. Nice, nice. It looks like it's working. Perfect, perfect. Technology, let me tell you.
I tell you, I learned how to program using machine language. And I was able to, all of this software that you see, I was able to get in, break it down, and reprogram to do what I wanted to. I
Right.
cannot keep up with that anymore.
It's, I tell you what, I was going through the Zoom settings and I swear there's about 50 different things you can turn on and off. And of course, I had the chat feature. When I had it set last week, it was the only people that could see chat, I guess, was the host and the panelists. I had to switch it off, obviously, but it looks like we got it situated this time, which that's great. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still not used to it. I prefer to talk with the people face to face
right,
because that way I can connect, I can look at everybody. So this is still new for me.
right. Hey, can you see me by the way? I just started my video up and went ahead and got the presentation on the screen as well. Can you see my face and can you see the presentation?
I can see your face, my face, and the presentation.
Perfect, perfect. So for those of you that are joining in, you guys are in for a special treat today. We have our very own founder of ePHI Compliance on today's call, Dr. Jose Delgado. We're going to be talking about business associate agreements here in the next couple minutes. We'll wait here for another few minutes to get started. And Dr. Olson, I'm glad to see that you made it in on this one. I know you're having some issues on the last one. Glad to see you in here. Dr. Olson, by the way, Dr. Delgado is a Legally Mine customer, and
Oh, great.
he's been trying to get in on these webinars. So I'm happy to see him on here today. Left us a
Yeah,
really nice review on our G2 profile as well. We appreciate that feedback.
nice. Well, Legally Mine is actually, I was the one that brought it to ePHI or brought ePHI to Legally Mine. And I'll tell you, it's one of the best services available out there.
Absolutely, it just you know with all the tax savings, let alone any sort of malpractice, lawsuits would occur. They're there to help. And obviously our services are included as well. It's a
Well,
win-win.
right. Well, for me, the attestation is I'm one of the clients for Legally Mine.
Right, right.
And I'm very happy. And my wife was the one that jumped on it and said, you got to sign for it. So that also tells you how important it is. If the wife
Absolutely.
approves, everything is fine.
Absolutely. So we got about 1 minute and we'll get her going.
Yeah. Uh, do you want me to give them while we're waiting with 135 now? I was going to say if you wanted me to give them a little bit of a background.
I was going to say, I kind of have something for you. And if you want to elaborate on what I say, let's do that.
Okay,
You want to go ahead?
that works for me.
Cool. Well, it's 1:35, so we'll go ahead and get it going. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for yet another edition of our compliance step-by-step webinars. My name is Ray Walters, and I will be your host. And I'm absolutely thrilled today to be co-hosting this episode with our distinguished guest, Dr. Jose Delgado. He's our very own founder of ePHI Compliance. And again, Dr. Delgado has over 25 years of experience in healthcare consulting and is recognized as one of the most experienced healthcare executives globally. He has a diverse background, including work in the Air Force Space and Missile Program. Dr. Delgado has successfully led various clinics, including rehab centers, IT companies, managed service organizations, demonstrating expertise in healthcare compliance, IT development, and even federal contracting. Dr. Delgado, hope I didn't butcher that, but if there's anything that I may have left out, which I know I have, please feel free to share with the audience.
The only thing I want to share with them is the fact that we are here because, number one, we care about our patients. And number two, by us working together, we can actually help others that are actually seeing patients so that we can get their backs. When I was in the military, there was a phrase that we used to say is, go ahead, I got your back. So what I want them to see is that with services like ePHI Compliance and Legally Mine is go ahead, we got your back. And if you have a questions, come back to us. The one thing that you mentioned briefly that is very important for this presentation is the fact that I'm still, one of my company is a federal contractor. So I personally have been one of the persons that do the audits for Medicare. And actually, I have also been contracted by the federal government to do presentations regarding different aspects of the law, HIPAA, EMRs, meaningful use, and all of these new laws. The important fact here is that what that means is that 2 to 3 years ahead of anybody seeing what the federal government is doing, I receive the proposals about what is it that they want to do to see if we are interested in doing it. What that does from the standpoint of ePHI compliance and the services we offer is that it helps us prepare our clients so that by the time that they award that contract and they have somebody already auditing or checking into that, we have already worked on that for years. So that gives us that little bit of a heads up. I normally don't take a contract that is detrimental to our potential clients, but it's always good to keep an eye and ears on what are they doing, where is it coming from, and where are they going. So that's something that I hope to be able to provide during this and other presentations.
No, absolutely. And obviously, today's topic, we're going to be discussing the intricacies of HIPAA security and obviously the critical role of business associate agreements. Obviously, play a big role in building and maintaining trust within the healthcare sector. And let's go ahead and get going. Obviously, and Dr. Delgado, I know you're new to this, but we always have a little bit of a show and tell of what we do here at ePHI Compliance. I know you sort of mentioned a little bit, but ePHI Compliance, we were established in 2013 by leading healthcare professionals. ePHI Compliance has been the forefront of developing compliance training for healthcare organizations, healthcare students, and business associates alike. Dr. Delgado is also the founder of ePHI Conferences, where we offer a certified HIPAA security officer training program. And I've mentioned this before in previous webinars, but this is a training that we're going to be offering here online very soon. As of right now, strictly in person. But Dr. Delgado, I was wondering if you can elaborate just a little bit more on that certified HIPAA security officer training program. I know you've created it, but let the audience give the audience a little more detail in terms of the importance behind that training.
Okay. HIPAA security is recognized to be to the point that nobody can be in compliance 100%. HIPAA security is one of the few laws that it specifies what is it that you have to do in order to be in compliance with them. And it have identified over 27 to 35 different items that we have to do. Regardless of the size of company, we have to do it. The sad part is that it also has to be done by business associates. Under one of the laws, the high-tech law, was where they started saying, well, business associates have to comply with HIPAA, some of the items from HIPAA privacy and all of the items of HIPAA security. Now, the problem is that it's so complex that most people don't know what to do. So what I did was I created 3 levels of certifications. The first level, the HIPAA security officer, is basically one individual that every organization by law must have, but very few have been trained in terms of what to do. This is basically about 27 courses online, and then we offer a boot camp that is 8 hours, and a test is pass or fail. But I believe that the first version of the test was 200 questions. I think that the final version ended up to be about 100, and we have like an 80% pass rate. Now, this is very important because I have people that say, I know this thing, I'm going to take the test and I'm going to pass it and move on. Well, I'm sorry. This is not a certificate you get into I would say, a cereal box. I really want to make sure that the people that we certify know what they have to do. Now, there's a second level that is the HIPAA security administrator. That's more for practices that may have 2 or 3 locations, mid-sized businesses up to 10 different locations. That's for that. So that means that that administrator must have a security officer and then be the administrator. Nobody can actually go and take the administrator test without first passing the security officer. Then the third level is the HIPAA security executive. That is for multi-million-dollar corporations, hospital networks, and this is extremely difficult because it's basically essays. We're going to present situations and they have to tell us what are the variables that they have to look into it, what will be the resulting actions to solve the problem, and then based on that is that we will evaluate whether they have met the requirements to pass on. So I will basically encourage everybody to at least in every organization have one, and actually I recommend 2 or 3 depending on the size. It's challenging. Everybody that even takes just a boot camp says so that at the end of the day they feel like they have been run by a truck and that they didn't know all of the little things that we're trying to teach. So it is supposed to be the first level. So I normally try to say simple, but nothing with HIPAA security is simple.
No, it's not, and especially to today's topic regarding business associates. So, thank you for giving the details on that. And as mentioned, this is a training. The CHSO, Dr. Delgado mentioned there's 3 levels, but right now we're working on level 1, getting that one online as well for everybody to be able to digest and consume. But without further ado, let's talk about today's topic. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about business associates. So let's define some of our objectives today. We want to define and clarify the role of business associate as per HIPAA rules. We want to emphasize the functions and activities performed by business associates in handling protected health information, or PHI. We want to stress the crucial importance of business associate agreements between covered entities and business associates. And then last but not least, we want to outline how these agreements contribute to safeguarding PHI. And obviously, we want to mitigate any legal liabilities. So let's get started. So what is a business associate? So Dr. Delgado, I want to make this sort of obviously, you being the expert here, I want to sort of interview you on each of these slides. So Dr. Delgado, can you elaborate further on what exactly constitutes a business associate?
Well, the first thing I have to say is thank you, because I hate to be killed by PowerPoint. If you were going to read the slides,
No, no, no,
I
no,
was
no.
going to give you something else,
We're going to make
because
this engaging.
our audience can look at the slides later.
Yes,
But I can go into the information about each slide in a way that is useful for the audience, because they are the reason why we're here. So
absolutely.
the first thing, look at it in a simple way. And normally when I audit or even I try to help a business, I say, let's first look at all of your subcontractors. Who are the people you're paying money to? Okay. And then from then I go to the next level. Okay. So these people are subcontractors. That's already determined. Then do they access your PHI, which is the patient health information, in any way or fashion? If they access the PHI or ePHI for any of their services, then they are a business associate. Now, some of the laws that passed recently change a little bit that because they don't need to have access, direct access to ePHI in order to be considered business associate. For example, for some of these farm companies, and farm, I mean server farm, not farm produce and grocery farm, that because they maintain your server, it is basically considered that they could have access to ePHI at any point in time. So they have been determined to be business associate. Now, the funny part with the federal government is that if we were to use that, well, we say, oh, okay, so the ASPs, which are the big ones that provide us or ISP, internet service providers, should be business associate, but those are not considered to be business associates, internet service providers. So you got to be careful because even the government in some of the settlements, they reserve the right to classify somebody as a business associate. For example, I will have corporations that have sister corporations that are working with them. And then I remember one case where they say you have not determined whether they are part of the primary corporation or they are business associates. So based on that alone, there is a settlement for each one of these organizations for every piece of information that they touch that they have to pay a fine. So they basically say, we're going to give you 6 months to decide how you're going to correct that. And based on that, we're going to determine what will be the fine that we're going to impose on you. So I will basically say, in case of doubt, consider them business associate, get the business associate agreement. And normally I would say, make it or use the one that we provide you in ePHI, because there is some leeway, gray zones, where they can actually put some wording that could jeopardize your protections. Okay, so basically, normally subcontractor means somebody you pay to that actually have patient information. That's the simple definition.
So to that point, Dr. Delgado, could you provide some more examples to our audience to help them understand in terms of who's considered a business associate? Here's the next slide. I listed some examples here, but maybe you can point out some of the common ones that you'll see in perhaps a healthcare organization or a practice.
Yes, but with that, I also gonna give you the answer to all the questions, which I always say in every conference, every time I speak with anybody, the answer is it depends.
Every
Because
time.
yeah, let's say for example, medical waste services. Well, why should they be considered a business associate? I mean, if all they are doing is picking up biomedical waste, there's no patient information that should be considered part of HIPAA or protected information. But now, if they had the labels, they had the liter bottles or any information that could identify a patient, then they become a business associate. Now, for example, janitors, cleaning people. Right. Cleaning people are not business associate because yes, they will have access, but that's kind of a secondary type of access. It's not part of their job to have access to that information. So like somebody come, electrician comes to change a light bulb. Well, that's not a business associate. Now, IT depends. Let's say, for example, that you have an IT person that comes in just to fix your computer. But if he's only fixing the computers, he's not a business associate. But if he's actually also providing you backup services, that immediately makes him a business associate. For some companies that use software companies, well, developing the software doesn't make somebody a business associate. But once you have patient information and they start troubleshooting and trying to fix, now they are a business associate. Even from the standpoint of a provider, I manage over 60 offices. I have my own clinics. And depending on the relationship is whether even these providers are considered to be a business associate. So for example, if they are my employees, and this is actually more based on IRS rules, they are my employees, they are not business associates. But if they are subcontractors, somebody that I pay a company, or even if they are their own company and I pay them, now they're a business associate and I need a business associate agreement. So that's why I say it's very tricky. I have even seen some companies that are not-for-profits, religious organizations, government organizations that have been caught in this, the business associates. And I would say that business associate is the number two easiest way to get somebody and prove that they have violated HIPAA. The first one being the security risk analysis. I can go anywhere and I will tell you that I pretty much am going to find something, and the first thing is going to be the SRA. I say, you're not compliant. Once you're not compliant, one thing, all I got to look is how much is going to be the fine. So business associate is my number two. Once I look at who are the subcontractors, then I start digging to see what is it that they do, what is it, what kind of access they have, and that is what it will tell me. For example, sometimes people say, well, my attorney is not. Well, it depends. Your attorney deals with any kind of patient information. Then no. My CPA. Well, again, if your CPA is actually looking at all the people that owes you money and you have patient information there, well, now guess what? He's a business associate. He's dealing with patient information. You're paying him to do certain things. So you gotta be careful. So I would say basically, directly or indirectly, they may be. But most of the time, maintenance, cleaning people, they're not.
I don't know if it was you that had mentioned this, but someone had mentioned, hey, when in doubt, if you're unsure if you need an agreement in place or not, just have one in place anyways, right? It
Yes.
couldn't hurt you.
Yes.
You know,
Well, this is basically what happens is that you will never be fined by having an agreement that covers the business associate clauses if you don't need it. It
sure,
never happens.
sure,
Now, the opposite is true. So I say, I might as well. Now, most of the time, subcontractors that know about it, they don't want to do it. IT companies, they hate it. And because number one, they don't understand it. Number two, when they start reading it, they don't want to assume that liability.
right.
So, but yeah, my default is have them sign it, no matter how simple it is.
No, agree. And so now that we have a better understanding of a business associate, who's considered a business associate, can you tell our audience, explain them a little bit more about the business associate agreement and why it's a critical component in the realm of healthcare compliance?
Okay, the business associate is actually something that is covered both under HIPAA privacy and HIPAA security. Under HIPAA security, and when you look at the Omnibus Rule, the High-Tech Act, and all of the different, I would say, modifications or variations of those laws, all of them basically require that a business associate agreement be actually signed and in effect at the time. Now, for example, some people I audited, I said, well, this person has been my business associate forever, and I have the agreement over here. Well, I'll tell you that immediately when I look at that and I look at the date, if it's prior to 2013, that agreement is not valid anymore because of the Omnibus Rule. So they need a new one. Now, under Omnibus Rule, also something that happened that is very important is that this is the first one that not only actually created the business associate plus the business associate of the business associate, and so on to no end, created that chain of events that we are primarily responsible for everybody down the chain. But also it basically said that we must obtain assurances that they are in compliance with HIPAA security. So I tell you, as a business owner, a healthcare professional, I don't have the time to audit my business associates to see if they are in compliance with HIPAA security. Now, what the law states is we must obtain assurances, but the law after that is very gray. They don't specify what are the assurances that you must obtain to make sure that they are in compliance. So far, everything I have seen is that when a business associate is actually guilty of a breach, they don't even look at whether you obtain assurances to protect yourself. I never had one of those cases because if not, I will fight all the way to Washington. But what are assurances? The first level that you need is to have a valid signed business associate agreement. If you don't have that, it's game over. You might as well start looking for your checkbook for refinancing your house and to look for some kind of money because the fines are coming in, and sometimes it's 6, 7 figures come up very quickly. So this is serious. It's an easy way, and I hate to say this, but it's a fundraiser. I need a couple $1 million to pay for my department. Let me start doing this, to the point that state DAs are actually trained on HIPAA security and how they can actually go ahead and go after clients themselves. And other agencies are also doing it because it's easy. Like I say, you don't have an SRA, you're done. You don't have a valid business associate agreement with each business associate, you're done. So at the very least, have a business associate. Under our system, I created something because I always want to go a step above and beyond. And it's basically a form, kind of a notarized form that we send to our business associate every year, where we obtain assurances. Who's your HIPAA security officer? Who's your privacy officer? Have you conducted an SRA? Do you have policies and procedures? You train your people? They sign it. Now I have something signed that say, yeah, I went ahead, and not only do I have an agreement, I went one step further.
Sorry to
So,
cut you off, but what if they refuse to sign that? Just curious.
well, the problem is that if they refuse to sign that, now you got a problem, because that means is, are they in compliance with HIPAA security?
Exactly.
Now it's just a matter of, when something happens, what are you gonna do? It's like I was talking with Miss Leah the other day about what I say.
Mhm.
You can actually practice medicine without a license, and depending on the place, they'll slap your hands, do a couple warnings, fines, and let you go. Do the same with HIPAA security, and you will see that it's mandatory fines right there. And then when you go into the Department of Justice, there's actually potential jail terms that you have to do it. So I don't play with this thing. If somebody, a business associate, tell me, I don't want to give you any of that, and I don't have it, or they just refuse, I'll start looking for another business associate. And if I have a couple clients that are international, that they can only use these subcontractors, then at that point in time, what I do is I jump ahead and create a defense for them in case that they have to go to court to prove that we have done everything possible. But in this case, there's not even a possibility for us to continue operations without that person. So you gotta be proactive.
No, good point. And I know you kind of touched on this already, but obviously, to your point, compliance it's not just a suggestion, it's a mandate, right? Could you shed a little more light on why business associate agreements are federally mandated? And I know you touched on this a little bit, but potential consequences of not having them in place.
Yeah. Well, this is, I mean, like you say, I already mentioned about this, and I could be
Right.
talking about this thing with multiple examples about who is, who's not, and what will happen. I don't want to, I would say, bore you with this thing, because a lot of the times when I talk with a new client, or somebody asks me a question, I tell them, this is simple.
Mhm.
If you don't do this thing, again, you are already violating the law. So you are not even supposed to have a license to practice medicine. It's that simple. It is the law. It's a federal mandate. The problem is that it's not just HIPAA. There are multiple other laws that refer to the business associate relationship. Now, if you do that, and I have somebody that was actually using a subcontractor from India. Now, this is interesting, because at this point in time, people started asking me, well, what if I use somebody that is not from the United States? Is that legal or not? Can I basically make them a business associate? So what the law says in terms of international subcontractors is that they say we do not discriminate. From the federal mandate, it says if they meet the business associate requirement, you need to have a business associate agreement, and they must follow some parts of HIPAA privacy and all of HIPAA security. Whether the government can enforce it or not is the tricky part, because the federal government is not going to go after somebody in Brazil, Colombia, India, Pakistan. They're not going to do that. but they're going to go after you. So guess what? That means that not only are you always responsible, now you're going to pay for everything they did. So it's
Right.
to your benefit to make sure that you protect yourself at some point in time. Otherwise, again, it's consider that not having a BAA is the same as practicing without a license. It's like basically selling drugs on a corner. I hate to say it that way, but selling drugs in a corner, you might actually get away with a slap on the hand. With this one, the government doesn't give you any leeway.
No, absolutely. It's federally mandated. Got to have them in place. And actually, I believe I took some of these from a previous presentation of your, Dr. Delgado. But if you don't recognize it, it's okay. But I wanted to provide some real world examples, and a lot of this information you can actually find off the Health and Human Services Department website. This one in particular, $31,000 fine settlement for not having a business associate agreement in place with a file fax, which is responsible for storing records containing patient health information. So again, just wanted to share some real world cases here. Again, it's unfortunate, but it's something so simple, right? And again, this is these business associate agreements. That's something that our epi services that we provide as well. Another example I wanted to show as well. Advocate Healthcare settles for $5.5 million. I mean, it's a lot of money, right?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if did they go out of business, or were they still um I think they were still I think they had to lay off a lot of people.
Yes, they
But it
actually did
just,
some corrections. Let's put it this way. The
yeah,
thing is that when you look at it, once they get into those kind of penalty, it's not just the settlement,
yeah,
it's the corrective action plan. And
right,
in every corrective action plan, I see that then they say, conduct an SRA, update your policies and procedures, make sure that all your business associate agreements are in place, train your people, and then they want a third party to be monitoring the organization and report to the Department of Health and Human Services to make sure they're in compliance. And they do that for a couple of years. So it's basically say, oh man, so now not only did you pay the fine, but you have Big Brother over your shoulder in your
yep.
facility getting information to make sure you're doing it for years. And if you deviate in any way or fashion, you're done. So
You're
yeah,
basically a target at that point. And
yeah.
this was another interesting one too. This was a Florida based company, Advanced Care Hospitalists. Again, had to pay $500,000 for not having business associate agreements in place. And something I wanted to mention: how important is it to keep, obviously, when you have these business associate agreements in place, and I'm just going to use, just for the sake of this, I'm going to use, let's just say I have an agreement in place with my EMR company, and I decide to go with a different EMR company, whether it's a better, just a better service overall, or it fits my needs better. What am I to do with that previous business associate agreement? Do I just trash it, or am I supposed to keep it? And
Under under HIPAA privacy, it basically states that you must keep all information regarding your compliance for 6 years. Okay, so even if you terminated that, you still have to keep it for 6 years. Now, if they and depending on what is the case, if the case goes to the Department of Justice, now you got to look at the statute of limitation. And the statute of limitations may vary based on whether you're talking about a patient that have a commercial insurance, a managed care insurance, or even whether they are children or not. Because then, in addition to HIPAA law, that is 6 years, then now the statute of limitation, depending on your state, depending on the patient, depending on the payer, kicks in. And
sure.
that could be anywhere up to 16, 17, 18 years.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's good information. I mean, a lot of our customers ask, hey, if I'm no longer doing business with this business associate, do I keep these agreements on file? And obviously, using our system, you have an archive method, where you hit the button, you archive it, it's going to stay on our system.
Yeah.
So no, very important. And that kind of hits home here. Obviously we've sort of discussed the potential pitfalls. Let's focus on the solutions here. And Dr. Delgado, maybe you can elaborate on each of these. And forgive me, you know what? I should have mentioned the SRA on here. That
And you
is
still
important.
have,
I should have mentioned it on here, but again, just four solutions based on our conversation. Implement templates for business associate agreements. Again, this is something that ePHI compliance can assist with. We have templates that clearly define and scope the responsibilities of the business associate. Dr. Delgado had mentioned this as well, but obtain assurances. And I know we didn't really harp on this a whole lot, but obviously when it comes down to training, you want to make sure your staff is trained and educated in HIPAA, security, HIPAA privacy, and make sure all parties are involved and informed and up to date. Dr. Delgado, I don't know if you want to elaborate a little more on that.
well, I was looking at the time and I want to be respectful of our audience.
Sure.
So basically, I would say if we're dealing about business associates only. So the first one will be the business associate agreement, and the second one will be the assurances. And we actually have a module for business associates because it's important. Everything else is there, is the SRS, is the training for the employees. Even when you're talking about retention of documents, the policies and procedures for HIPAA have also need to be maintained for 6 years. But right now, keeping it business
Yes.
associate agreement and assurances. I will keep it there for now.
Great, great. And guys, again, I appreciate your guys' participation. And yes, we are very mindful of your time. We do like to keep these within 20 minutes, but listen, Dr. Delgado was on here today. I'm going to blame him for everything, but no, we wanted to make this this very insightful for you guys. Again, business associate, very important topic. And again, I do want to open up just for a brief FAQ. Those that can still hang around here might have some questions, but just real quickly, again, for those that are eager to advance their knowledge in career and compliance, again, always suggest, and again, Dr. Delgado, we've been doing these past several webinars. We've been talking about OSHA related topics. So again, we always
Yeah.
offer a free OSHA course via epicourses.com. If you guys are looking for something a little more bundled, or you're looking for not only just OSHA but HIPAA as well, we do offer a ePHI compliance training bundle that includes all your HIPAA privacy, HIPAA security, OSHA for healthcare, and waste, fraud, and abuse training. And then as far as the business associate agreements go, we do have an all-inclusive platform as well. That is our ePHI compliance pro package. That's not only just going to include all the training that I mentioned, but it includes all the policies, procedures, all the templates, reminders, and also online method for sending out business associate agreements. And we are providing those templates to you. So again, everybody's going to be receiving an email with a link to these products. Again, at the very least, if you haven't taken your OSHA training or your staff hasn't taken the OSHA training this year, take advantage of our free service. You take the course, you get a PDF downloadable certificate at the end. And well, without further ado, again, I appreciate your guys' time. Dr. Delgado, appreciate your participation today, and hope to see you on future webinars. I think you're going to be on the one and sometime in December,
Yeah.
but obviously looking forward to have you on more of these conversations. And let's go ahead and open up for just a quick FAQ, and we'll go from there. Oh, good question. This is from Anonymous. Is it required to re-sign a business associate agreement annually?
No. No, unless the law changes in such a way that the terms of the contract will change, you don't have to do it. So as long as you have one, and I would say one from 2014 and on, that should be fine.
No, good question, good answer. That is a very common question that we get, I'd say, from customers. Let's see if we got any more coming in here. Here's another one. Dr. Delgado, could you elaborate on specific challenges that healthcare organizations commonly face in ensuring compliance with HIPAA security rules?
Oh, Jesus. I can actually talk about that for a week. The main thing right now is that everything that we're doing is gearing into computers, technology. There is the Internet of Things now. It's another topic. So without us knowing, we're actually not only our personal information, but also our business information is becoming available. Like for example, devices just like Alexa. And I laugh about that because I will tell you a very brief about an attorney that had Alexa in his office to listen to music. And the minute I step in and I point it out, you know that that's basically like an open channel that somebody is listening and collecting data. All of these companies are saying, no, 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 they are protected and they only activate when you mention the name. Well, the problem is it depends on the accent. Tell me, I know about accents, okay? So there are times that they get triggered and they get activated. If not, think about when you're talking with somebody around some computer or technology assistance, and guess what happens after that? That you're going to start getting ads. Let's say you're talking about a vacation in Italy, and you're going to get all kind of ads about Italy. So we have put ourselves in the front of information being collected about us on an ongoing basis. So that's the problem because we look at the convenience, but we don't think about the security. And I would say not just HIPAA security, your personal security is important. Okay.
No, I think some of that actually kind of goes into next week's topic as well. We're going to be talking about another HIPAA security related topic, but workstation use with cell phones. And yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you, how, I have friends that are physicians that are on their cell phones and they got their EMR app up and this and that. It's just, it's crazy. It's going to be a fun topic to discuss. And like you mentioned earlier, everything is, on cell phones. Everything's there. And
Well, like I say, now I say devices because even saying
devices.
a
Yes.
laptop, a
Hmm.
computer,
Hmm.
all of that is all technology. There are so many devices around us. Our electricity, I mean, it's like I actually had a hard time with the pool maintenance because they wanted to connect my pool to the internet so I could turn the jacuzzi and control the lights and all that. Told them no because it was a security breach. The firewall
Yeah.
on that
Wow.
device to connect through the internet is nothing. So it's very easy to use that to get into my home network. And then from then they have a field day. So people don't understand all
Scary.
of those conveniences will cost you dearly if you're not careful.
No, good point. Good point. Well, hey, again, Dr. Delgado, I appreciate your time being here. And everybody, again, we went a little over today, but I hope you guys found this presentation valuable. Plenty more where that came of. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about HIPAA security next Tuesday. Again, same time, 1:35 p.m. Eastern Standard. And we're gonna talk about that and some more HIPAA security topics here in the near future as well. I mentioned this earlier, but everybody should be receiving an email from us with some of the links that we discussed. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. Our mainline numbers here. Also, you can reach out to info at Epi Compliance. But again, appreciate everybody's time, and we'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Delgado.
Okay.